Hello, everyone. Welcome to e-learning day. Like, what are we on? 400 and something? No, not really, but that's what it feels like. Good news. We are on our last new topic of the year. So we are going to learn about graphing exponentials today. We are going to review our graphing and quadratics tomorrow. And then we are going to test on Thursday. That will wrap up all of our information. Obviously, we have shortened some things and tried to just really focus on those key pieces. So we are going to go back for the last 2 weeks. So after this week, we have 9 days total. The last 2 weeks, so 6 days of e-learning, we are going to be relearning, or I don't know, relearning is the right word, reviewing some of those topics that are just going to be essential for math next year. So we're going to be looking at factoring. Don't mind my dog in the background. We're going to be looking at some factoring. We're going to be looking at some solving equations. Thank you, Edna. Sorry, we have a delivery right now. We're going to be looking at solving equations, factoring, and some things with polynomials, just to make sure we have that fresh in our brains, okay? So graphing exponentials. Here's the deal. We don't actually have to know a whole lot about the exponentials today. We more just need to be able to make a table and use a calculator. But there are a few key things we want to understand. First of all, an exponential graph always makes something that is this shape. Okay, it comes out to a flat line and then it starts to curve. Now, that shape can be manipulated by the numbers. So it could also go down, just like a parabola can open up or down. Okay, and it can also go the other direction as well. So it could go this way, right, and swoop up into a flat line. But, right, I don't have a good word for it. A parabola is that U shape, right? So I call this a swoop. Maybe it has an official name. I don't know what it is. If you find it and you email it to me, I'll add it to our extra. That can be your questions for Mrs. McKinney, answers for Mrs. McKinney, extra credit for that one. Okay, so when we're graphing, we're always going to get that shape. We have this form that says y equals, okay, and then we still have an a in front, and then that can be with a b to the x plus c. Okay, a is still going to tell us if it opens up or if it opens down. So if a is positive, we are going to get a swoop that opens up, and if a is negative, we are going to get a swoop that opens down. So it's not quite a U, but it is heading downhill instead of heading uphill. Okay. This B can be any number. That's going to be our actual number. You'll notice what's different in this is where our variable comes into play. Our variable is now the exponent. And we've been talking a lot about exponential growth as we were in the classroom, because this is exactly what is happening with the coronavirus, with COVID-19. Okay, exponential growth is the path that a virus takes. Okay, so when we were looking at those pictures in the classroom, when we had that Zoom chat about where is math used in the real world, if you're seeing that news, those media outlets, these are the graphs you're going to see. I know it's super exciting to me because I'm a math dork, but like, how much more applicable could it be? We're like seeing it in the real world every day. This plus C over here on the end is a really, really weird number. Okay, this C gives us a special line that our graph will not go above or below. So we sort of have this weird rule of like, it doesn't quite get to it, it gets close to it. So depending on if it opens up or down, it will tell us where we have to sort of stop. And this is what we call our asymptote, right? Super weird, cool word. But it gives us a line that we sort of can't cross. We either can't go above or we can't go below, depending on the direction of our graph. Now, I don't need you to remember the word asymptote. I just need you to know that it's a line that we cannot cross. Okay. So let's say we now want to graph something. Let's say we are given a very basic exponential equation of y equals 2 to the x minus 4. Okay, we're going to know that this is an exponential function because, again, that exponent is the x. We are also going to know that this is going to be an exponential that opens up because the number sitting here in front is a positive 1. So we know we want a swoop shape that's going this direction. And we also know we have this line that we're not going to be able to cross at -4. But that's all we can really get by just looking at the equation. To get the very specific graph, we're going to have to complete a table. Now, when we make a table, we can pick whatever input values we want to pick. A lot of the times we'll pick -1, 0, 1, and 2. If we were in the classroom, I'd give you some more freedom. But you'll see like in your assignments today, all of those X values are just gonna be picked for you. It just makes it easier for everyone when we're all on that same page and picking the same X values. Okay, so let's just say we pick for this one, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Okay, we are then just going to take each of these values. So these values right here will be given to you on all of your assignments. We are just going to take those values and we're going to plug them in for X. So now instead of saying 2 to the X, we'll say 2 to the -1 minus 4. And the bigger piece to this is actually making sure you know how to use your calculator than actually being able to do anything else. So if we want to put this in our calculator, remember this button right here, this 2 sides of a triangle is our up caret button, and it allows us to type in any exponent we want. So if I want to type in 2 to the -1, I'm going to do 2 up caret -1. Now remember when we talked about exponents, a negative exponent tells us to move it to the other side of the fraction. So you're going to see we're going to get this sort of fraction answer. So 2 to the -1 minus 4 equals, and we get a -3.5. So in this box, I'm going to put a -3.5. Can you see that yellow? Does that show up well enough? Not very well. I'll pick a new color here on the next one. Okay, then we're going to do 2 to the 0 minus 4. And again, now you can just move your calculator up if you want to, like scroll up, oops. And then move your cursor over and just change this 1 into a 0. Now again, remember anything to the 0 power is 1. So this really says 1 minus 4, which is why we get out an answer of -3. Okay, and then we will plug in 1. So we'll do 2 to the first minus 4. Okay, again, you could use your calculator. I hope we know 2 to the first power is 2, and 2 minus 4 is -2. Okay, again, 4 minus 4, 0. Okay, so once we get this table, we're then just gonna go to a coordinate plane. So you could either print out those coordinate planes that I had or just draw a graph in your notes, whatever. And now we're just gonna plot these points. So I'm gonna treat this as the ordered pair -1, -3.5. Now, you're just gonna have to do a little bit of an approximation. We don't really have a choice. I know Mrs. McKinney doesn't like to approximate, but unfortunately with exponentials, we cannot avoid some weird numbers. It just happens. Fractions come into play. So that's why we're making a table with multiple points to sort of help make sure that we're getting the right picture. So we're gonna do -1, -3, and then a half more. So there's -1, -3.5. Okay, then my next point from my table was 0, -3. So now I'm going to plot 0, -3. Okay, the next one in my table was 1, -2. So 1, -2. And then my next one was 2, 0. Okay, now we're going to go back to that information that we knew to be true from the very beginning. We knew that this should be a swoop that opens up. So we see this swoop is happening upwards. Now we have to be really careful because it's tempting to sort of just draw in some sort of curved shape that matches and goes through those points, but that's not what we need. We need to understand that that -4 is really important. Okay, that -4 says that we cannot cross this line. Okay, so I'm going to y is -4, and I have a line there that I can't cross. So what's actually happening with my graph is I'm actually getting this shape right here, right? So I'm getting close to that -4, but I'm not going below it. Okay, and there's my graph for an exponential. Now, you're obviously, for the most part, going to be working on just multiple choice and picking, so you're not going to have to worry too much about this, but it is really an important concept that I just want you to understand. So let's look at another one. Let's say that we want to graph an exponential function of y equals negative 2 to the x plus 3. Okay, so we're going to make a table. Again, input values are going to be given to you, but most of the time they'll be -1, 0, 1, and 2. Sometimes I'll leave off -1 if it's a weird answer to type in, and so you'll just see 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and we're just going to start plugging these in. Now, keep in mind, this negative is not in parentheses with that 2. Okay, so what I really want is just like I see it, a -2 and then an up caret -1 plus 3. So when I'm putting that in my calculator, -2 up caret -1 plus 3. And I get out 2.5. Okay, then again, you can just continue to use your calculator if you would like. You can re-plug it in each time if you would like. We plug in 0, we get out 2. We plug in 1, we get out 1. And we plug in 2, we get out -1. Okay, now just by looking at this, this has an A value of -1, which means that we should be getting a swoop that goes downwards. Okay, so let's see if that happens as we plot our points. So we're going to plot the point -1, positive 2.5. -1, positive 2.5. 0, 2. 1, 1. 2, -1. Okay, you can sort of start to see it here, right? The swoop is right here going down. We also know that we cannot cross +3. So at +3, right, I know my graph cannot cross here. So I know I have something that's swooping downwards. Oh, that was a really sort of wobbly line. It should be a little bit more straight here, but you guys get the idea. Okay, it's swooping downwards and it's not crossing that 3. Okay, let's just look at one more to make sure that we get the idea. Let's say we have, get a new color here. Y equals 2, 4 to the x minus, 6. So I'm going to do -1, 0, 1, and 2. Again, just one more reminder, make sure you pay close attention. These values will be given to you, but if this is a really weird output, I might just give you 0, 1, 2, 3. So just make sure you're paying attention to those values that are given to you. Okay, so again, if I'm plugging this in, that 2 is staying. So I'm going to do 2, 4, and then to the up caret -1 minus 6. So when I'm putting this in my calculator, 2, 4, up caret -1 minus 6. And I'm getting -5.5. Okay, then I can change that to a 0. Again, we should know that anything to the 0 power is 1. So you could do this by hand, no problem. We should be able to. We learned that earlier this school year, second trimester. Okay, then we can put an input of 1. And then we can change that to an input of 2. Okay, so sometimes, right, we've talked about this, exponential growth can happen crazy fast, which means there are times that even by the time we get to 2, we have a really big number. Now, it's all relative, right? A really big number, 26, isn't huge, but for our 10 by 10 graph, that's pretty big. Okay, so again, that's why we sort of are given these multiple numbers to input and output, because exponentials just have some other weird things that happen. So we're not going to be able to fit this one on our graph, but we should still have enough information to get our picture. So I'm going to do -1, -5.5, 0, -4, 1, comma 2. Okay, I know that I do not want to cross the line of -6, so I can't go any lower than this. And I know that I want this to swoop upwards, right? Positive means upwards. So we see that upward swoop happening right here in our picture already. Oh dear, guys, it is really hard for me to graph around a camera. Sorry about that. But pretend I hit those points. You get the idea. So for your homework, you're going to have a couple problems of graphing and then just a couple basic questions. So let me know if you have any additional questions. Feel free to reach out or to join a Canvas conference with me to make sure we're good to go with this information. Have a great rest of the day.